football clubs.
Burnley have been playing at Turf Moor since they began, but with only 22,000 seats, can they be considered a big club?
Subscribe now to see how they compare with other big football clubs.
Since founding the Football League in 1888, Burnley have won 3 major honours. Although they are one of the clubs who have been around the longest, they do not match up to the overall attendances of the very biggest clubs since the beginning. This leaves them at the lower end of a graph showing the success and fan base of current Premier League clubs. Burnley have won a lot more than people realise. Burnley have won 2 league titles and 1 FA Cup. They were one of the first English sides to enter the European Cup and were knocked out at the quarter-final stage. Their recent adventure into the Europa League was cut short before the group stage. Burnley have got great records and Turf Moor is constantly packed. Most clubs at the beginning of the Football League had similar average attendances, but Burnley's average started falling away from this after relegation. It was not until just before the First World War that promotion back to the First Division resulted in increased attendances, which even went above the average in 1914, when the club experienced a revival and won the FA Cup. Strong support continued shortly after football was resumed, and when Burnley were at the top of the league. But when they started struggling in the league, fans stopped coming to Turf Moor in such large numbers. There was improvement as the side had a stronger finish in 1927, but support only got worse in the 30s when Burnley spent the entire decade in the second division. Burnley's promotion after the war was rewarded with greater numbers, but support was on the rise in football generally, and it was not until Burnley started challenging for the title that they approached the top flight average. Their home record attendance was reached in the FA Cup 5th round replay against Bradford City. At the end of the 60s, they were still in the First Division, but fans lost interest when they were not at the top. Moving into the 1970s and during Burnley's decline, numbers got particularly low, and by the mid-80s, Burnley's drop to the very bottom of the Football League saw Turf Moor left nearly empty. But from the end of the 80s, we can see a very gradual improvement as Burnley started to achieve stronger league finishes, with numbers peaking during promotion years. Although not a home match, Burnley's appearance in the Associate Members' Cup in 1988 at Wembley was a record for that competition, even though both clubs were in the 4th Division, which was indicative of the club's potential. Fans started coming to see Burnley's rise through the divisions, and Burnley's promotion to the Premier League was met with a significant peak. The club have had much stronger turnouts when in the Premier League or challenging for promotion. Burnley are able to fill their stadium when in the Premier League, but Turf Moor is one of the smaller arenas in the top flight. They could start looking at greater numbers if they were to grow the stadium. But with a lack of consistency in the Premier League, it may be hard to commit funds into such a venture. We get the results when we need them. Burnley's second league title was secured at the home of local rivals Manchester City, and the game marked one of Burnley's proudest moments. This was a must-win match to take the title from Wolves on the last day by a single point, denying them the double. 27 years later, Burnley found themselves at the opposite end of the Football League and needed to win the last game of the season to stay in the Football League at all. They managed to win the Orient game, and this was the start of better times at Turf Moor. 22 years on, and Burnley finally made it back to the big time by beating Sheffield United in the playoff final. Although they've not been in the Premier League every season since, this match marks the beginning of frequent appearances in the top flight. Our players are legends from a glorious era. Burnley's best ever 11 is made up mostly of players from their league title win and strong finishes in the 60s. But there are additions from the 70s and 80s, and even a couple from more recent seasons. No matter how hard it gets, we always make it back. As one of the founding members of the Football League, Burnley maintained a position in the First Division for the first few years. Then at the end of the first decade of league football, league finishes started to vary significantly until they spent over a decade in the Second Division. After their recovery, they won their first FA Cup. And after the First World War, they showed some of their best form, becoming champions in 1921. There was then a gradual slide back down to the Second Division, where they remained until after the Second World War. The post-war period met with full recovery into the First Division with strong league finishes, and their second league title in 1960. They were a common feature of the First Division before a few shaky years at the beginning of the 70s. Their gradual decline from the mid-70s made them an almost forgotten club by many, and by the mid-80s they had hit almost rock bottom. But as a big club, this was not tolerated, and their recovery started in 1988. In 1992, they became the second club to have won all 4 divisions. They then spent the rest of the decade in the third division, before another in the second. From 2010, Burnley have spent time in both the Premier League and the second division, with Sean Dyche keeping them there for 6 seasons. Since his departure, they've been looking for consistency in the top flight. Burnley are one of the founding members of the Football League and have titles confirming their dominance over certain periods. They were, however, unable to make a strong mark in Europe. Attendances have often struggled, particularly when going through difficult times. With a small stadium and a competitive area of the country, this makes it hard for Burnley to get bigger numbers. Burnley's biggest matches are a combination of title wins, fights for survival and more recently promotion, and most do not live in the memories of most football fans. With stars mostly from the 60s and a lack of household names, Burnley have not had world-class players recognised generally. Burnley are one of the original league clubs and have peaked over several decades. We can say that they're still recovering from their decline which took place in the 70s, and they've been slightly left behind other clubs in Lancashire. It'd be hard to imagine them competing at the very top, but this is one of the smallest towns in the Premier League, and the fact that they keep on making it back after relegations gives them the right to claim they are one of England's
big football clubs.
Lancashire is the origin of half of the founding members of the Football League, and of the most successful clubs in England. Does this make the county the biggest footballing region in the world?
Please comment below. Like and subscribe to Big Football Clubs to watch videos as they're released each week.